Welcome everyone. My name is Dee Dee Hurricane. I'm with Marist College. Today I'll be moderating for Corey Nicoletti. She'll be presenting the other end user, setting LMS expectations starting with students.
No, they've been all good so far.
Can we mute you, please?
No.
Thank you anyway, everyone, for joining us. So one of the things I'd like you to know is please note that if you have any questions, please place them in the chat tool. Corey will be taking questions throughout the presentation and at the end. You can enter those questions at any time, and the session's being recorded, so do be aware. Also, these will be recorded, and at a later date, you can find them on the Sakai YouTube channel. If you have any problems with the video or audio, please let me know in the chat tool and we'll help you out there. Corey Nicoletti is the Educational Technology Specialist at Marist College. She focuses on technology integrations, faculty support, best practices, instructional design, all using Sakai. She loves classic brainstorming sessions with like-minded people to come up with new ideas. She's helping faculty navigate and master the learning management system. Corey works closely with an instructional designer and Sakai developers to offer regular workshops and training in addition to one-on-one assistance while working to optimize the use of Sakai for faculty and students alike. Corey.
Thanks very much, Dee Dee. I really appreciate it. All right, so my sound's good. We're good. We're rolling. All right. So welcome to my presentation, The Other End User. It's kind of interesting how we came across the idea for this presentation. So basically, we kind of realized that, oh, that's going to get annoying. I didn't realize it was going to keep moving, but everyone can enjoy the little car. So basically, we realized that so much of our time in my office, and I've used it to introduce myself to people before, is about 90% of what I probably do on a regular basis is with faculty. So one of our other presentations after this one is actually focusing on a specific approach with our faculty. But I turned around one day and said, well, what about our students? When it comes to our faculty, if they don't walk into our office, they might just be diving in headfirst into murky, unknown waters, some of them very willing to do so, to plunge ahead and customize their own digital learning environment. So we don't always get the opportunity to stand in front of them. So we kind of had to sit back and say, what's within our control? What's within our control as an office? So and then, of course, that followed with, okay, well, what can we do? And of course, what's within our control is our learning management system. And everything kind of started with one particular school here. Our schools are organized. You know, we have School of Professional Programs, School of Management. One particular school had asked us to offer an online student orientation for their primarily online students. And a few other schools jumped on board and we offered it and we facilitated it. And this presentation is a result of a very interesting phone call I got recently. So let me give you a little background on our online student orientation first. So orientations in general, they're pretty standard. Incoming freshmen and transfers come and walk around campus. Students who they usually get on campus a little early, you move in, you set up your dorm room, you get comfy. You don't just usually hit campus and go right to class. Even commuters have an opportunity to come on campus ahead of time, get their ID card, walk around campus, go to their classes. So the general concept of an orientation is pretty regular. So when we thought about who are we reaching and who we needed to reach, that goes back to our schools. We do have 3 schools that did reach out to us pretty regular to offer this online student orientation that we had built. On the flip side, we had some students that we knew we needed to reach. We had students who didn't come by our door. I'm getting a little feedback from somebody.
Same, yes.
So
could everyone be sure they mute, please?
Awesome. I think we're good. Thank you. Sorry about that. So we didn't always get the opportunity. I've really tried cloning myself. Dean and I it didn't work. So we had to think about what are the results of what we currently had in place and how did we know that? How did we know we were being effective? And what it came down to is we really didn't. until I got that phone call, which I'm going to come back to. So we also had to talk about our hurdle. So first and foremost, it was the format. Doing a Sakai orientation that we call it ILearn. There was really no way to get in touch with every student. And we didn't have anybody really on board to offer that and come together and collaborate on something like that. Our audience was limited to the schools who had reached out to us to offer this to their students. And even then, it wasn't required. It wasn't mandated that these students go through it, complete it, fill it out, and finish it. And then we also didn't really have buy-in. So all the schools who weren't coming through us, some of them said, I don't really use ILearn. Well, they do. Everyone does. We find that our use of ILearn is, 90% of our classes use it in some way, shape, or form. So what are these students missing out on? So the idea was, forget about what is out of our control. Let's build an online student orientation that allows us to model for the students what ILearn Sakai is capable of, regardless of how that faculty member customizes that digital environment that they have. All right, so the phone call. So one day back in September, I got a phone call from Institutional Research, and this gentleman that called me, he adjunct teaches a class too, so I thought it might have just been the standard, hey, I'm trying to do this, that kind of thing. We've collaborated before. And he says, I'm looking over some course evaluation statistics, and I wanted to know if, you changed anything with your online student orientation. And my immediate answer to him, he could tell you to this day, was exactly, what do you mean you got some interesting statistics? So I was super excited. And I immediately couldn't contain my excitement with the phone of him. I was like, what are you talking about? What did you see? Yes, we changed stuff. Yeah. What did the statistics say? I was so excited. I couldn't even talk straight. So long story short, I'm going to be sharing it on the next slide. He called to say that our satisfaction rate with the online student orientation had increased incredibly. Now, he didn't give me the exact numbers on that phone call. So I, of course, immediately went over to my director and I was like, you're not going to believe what I just heard. And immediately we had her sent those statistics. So we did get into a few more particulars that are also going to show on the next screen. And we had to then take a look at, wait a second, so who was your audience? So who said this? And what does this mean for everybody else? We're finally hearing from our students who I can't get to come knock on my door, and I get limited feedback in the courses that I adjunct teach, but what's going on here? So we're going to take a look at the statistics. This is just a funny little picture I dropped in. My daughter makes candid appearances in most of my presentations, and she was not excited about statistics. She was excited about mandarin oranges, but that's pretty much the face I made. So first and foremost, our statistics that they provided with us were as followed. So our online orientation satisfaction rate, so students who rated it either very satisfied or satisfied, was 100%, which was amazing. That was fantastic. It wasn't 95. It wasn't 90. It was 100% satisfaction rate. No student said that they were dissatisfied with it, which was amazing. This is where things got a little tricky once I got my hands on the statistics. If you look, the numbers for ILearn website and ILearn resources for very satisfied and satisfied are pretty high. If you look at how many people answered that question for ILearn orientation, it's a lot smaller. So this is where the conversation grew. And I spoke to Institutional Research and I said, what's going on? Who is your audience? I see how many people answered, but did 1,800 people really leave that blank? And he turned around and said, well, we ask a bunch of questions that pretty much say, was the online orientation available to you? Did you take online courses? That kind of thing to customize the questions and statistics. So this is what he sent to me. So this was actually, the question has only been asked for the last 2 years. And the School of Professional Programs, which is the school that very specifically does reach out to me, one of the schools, you can see had an increased rate across the board for the ILearn website, ILearn resources, and ILearn orientation. Now, the advantage there is we've worked closely with those faculty We actually put them through a template process, which is my next presentation after this one. And we have this ILearn orientation. So 94% to 100% was, super significant to us. So you do see across the board, there are some other statistics in here that kind of told a different story to us. Now, of course, I can only speculate. I don't work over in institutional research. I'm just an educational technology specialist. So I'm, of course, sitting here saying, all right, what do we do next? Let's get these numbers. Let's make them better. And some other things that stood out to us here is in most cases, you'll see all the scores are pretty much above 80%. LDM, which is over top row of the bottom picture all the way to the right, is our Marist Italy branch, which due to infrastructure reasons, they actually don't use ILearn much. So that actually had implications for us that we had to get some people on the ground over there. We're working on that. We're looking at partnering over there, and that is something we're pushing forward, not just for our Marist Italy branch, but all of our broad programs and how they're using ILearn. We had another one that stood out to us, and that was at the very bottom here, the MBA program. So this individual from institutional research had also said, after I asked him to pull this data for this presentation, said, well, what did you do for MBA? And that stood out to us too, because we actually specifically offered a MBA innovation course seminar with a bunch of key faculty over there. So that was kind of nice to see too. Now, of course, those are just me getting super excited about these numbers and knowing that we here at Marist, specifically in our office, are having institutional impact. So that was really exciting to see. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Obviously it means a lot to me. I'm like, yes. But what does that mean for our office? And what does that mean for Marist? And what does that mean for IT and ILearn? So moving forward, those numbers specifically speak louder than words. We speculate that the reason the other schools' satisfaction rates with the website and resources could be a view that is tainted by their faculty. There was a presentation we were watching earlier. I think it was Matt Burgess, who had mentioned that the student feedback that he was getting was a lot of students knew that their faculty could do more, but that they weren't. And these particular opportunities, SPP and MBA, as well as this online student orientation, is our opportunity to as an office to highlight those features and say, check this out. Let's walk you through it. Let's give you an opportunity to take a test or quiz and see how that kind of flows and feels before your grade's dependent on it, before there's a time limit, before you're freaking out and maybe those students have testing anxiety. Now it's a new environment. What do you do? So this was really the major push that we needed. And as an office moving forward, we've already hit the ground running, looking into what we can do moving forward to create this success across the board for our other schools and our other students. Clearly, these students saw a benefit to it. Clearly, these students, the numbers were actually better for the website as a whole and resources as a whole, because they knew what the system was capable of and what we were providing and working with our faculty to then provide for them. So moving forward, we have a lot of questions that are still up in the air. Can we make it mandatory? Can we make it so that they can't proceed in their other online courses without going through this first? How do we staff and monitor it? As of right now, I myself go into those online orientations, and if a student asks a question in the forums, I'm usually answering back. We do have some student workers, and the schools do partner with us on that, but that's exactly what it is. We, kind of take the hits as we can and respond when we can and get that flow going with those orientations. The other great exciting part is institutional research. Off of this, especially off of that excited face and obviously my excitement on the phone when he called me, he's like, well, let's do something. Like, I didn't know they were asking these questions. We had no idea what was part of these evaluations when it spoke to Sakai here on Marist. And he kind of started asking me all these questions. Well, are we asking the right questions? Who's your audience? Who gets into the orientation? Can you run me a student list? And I was just like, whoa, we're not there yet. So we are looking to partnership in that moving forward. So the next few pieces, I do have a few pieces to share our online student orientation with you. I specifically built it into the slides. So if you want to reference the slides, especially after the presentation, I gave you some screenshots and some YouTube links to kind of see how we have it right now. We now make it joinable as well. We do a specific orientation kind of crash course presentation for our international students. And at the beginning of that, we walk them through this online student orientation. It's a joinable site within Sakai for us. So that's one more audience that we're reaching out to and getting in front of. So I do have a little snapshot here for you of our online student orientation. We keep it down to 2 lessons modules on the left with a few subpages each. It's short, sweet, to the point. The idea of this is that we were in a really interesting place when I started working on this a little over a year ago, where we had upgraded to Sakai 11 in July of 2016. And the huge update to lessons was something that we didn't quite have faculty taking advantage of. So this was one way for us to really highlight and model that for our students, again, so they could see what it was capable of. So you'll see we actually replaced the overview. That way, this is the landing page that you see right here that students are dropped right into. Some nice branding at the top for Marist, a little bit of an introduction, self-paced, 6 to 8 hours, a little blurb on the right-hand side about what kind of tools they're going to be finding and coming across, and things such as that. So this page also points them right to technical questions and support. Before you even get started, if you get stuck, if you start to hit that wall, if the path is muddy, it's that hidden perspective. That's the kind of feeling I was going for with the car crashing the wall. Here's where you go, and here's how you get in touch with us. So we did also do some videos. We have a little Powtoon, little fun kind of introduction. This is ILearn. It can do this. It can do tests and quizzes. It can do student engagement, kind of geared towards all of our audience, our faculty as well. And then we have a sample course tour. The nice thing about the course tour is there's a visual video walkthrough that walked our students through. Here's what you're going to see. Here's what it might look like. Let me actually bring that up. Did my sound come up on that okay? It started, but...
No, I don't hear the audio.
Okay.
It's coming through your machine.
Oh.
You run into that a little bit here.
Yeah, I thought I had set it up to share my computer audio. Give me a second.
Sure thing. And while we're waiting, does anyone have any questions? I see, Katie, that you thought some of that items were crazy.
I can't find the setting. Alrighty, well, no big deal. That's available. I saw the checkbox somewhere. I must have missed it. So that's available to everybody on the slides that I shared. It's a nice little course tour that does a walkthrough of how to set your site favorites. Here's what a site might look like. And instead of actually going to in each tool, we actually just did screenshots. We said, you know what, instead of having them follow a mouse around, instead of having them try to follow you and track you around and across an actual site navigation, we kind of stayed on the course homepage and said, this is the tool on the left. This is what you might see when you're there. So it was just this is just a little preview of all the little highlights. We pointed out lessons modules, what they might find in lessons. Here's the text and the content. So you get a nice little general idea of how that works out for our students. So that direct link is available on the slides. And then we did a nice little Powtoon. That was more of the introduction of, let's not even worry about getting on the internet and getting on the website yet, but this is just a general overview of ILearn. It's for participants and the instructor and communication and all sorts of things there. So this is the second page of our online student orientation. We kept it short and simple. We did an overview, which is where those 2 videos are. We did the tools of ILearn, which is a great reference place for them. You can see here we narrowed it down to syllabus, forums, tests, and quizzes, messages, lessons, and resources, assignments and gradebook, and then we did a wrap-up page. And in each of those opportunities, they have an option to send a message to the instructor with documentation, walkthrough, and sometimes a video. We're constantly creating new videos. We're constantly tasking our student employees here to create new ones. We actually just wrapped up one on tests and quizzes today that we're going to be putting up in here. And it's a constantly evolving process. I think that's the most frustrating but best part of it is that we've made the content as timeless as possible, so that students, it doesn't necessarily say fall 2017, so that we, lives a little bit longer. And we've also kept our scripts so that we can always customize our scripts and what we're showing on the screen and things like that. We do talk a little bit about being an online learner, just general qualities, time management, communication. There's nothing more important. I tell my students this day one. I was like, listen, you have a question? Ask me. If you're not sure about something, ask me. I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And I encourage them to do the same in all of their courses. The only person it's a disservice to is them if they're not reaching out to their faculty, because then they're falling behind and raising those eyebrows. So let me end my PowerPoint. How are we doing on time?
You're doing okay. You do have some questions in the chat.
Great. Let's grab them. Should I open them myself? Or?
If you'd like, you can.
Wonderful. Okay. So, oh, I see. That's crazy. When you screen share, there's an option to share audio. You'll need to unshare and share again. Oh, no worries about that. So Terry mentioned she'd love to see the whole orientation. So the great thing about Terry, no, is this our Terry? I can't tell. But anyways, oh, okay, it's our Terry. So the great thing about Terry is that as of right now, so just talking about moving forward, as of right now, our online student orientation is actually joinable. So that's something we did this fall. And the great thing about that too is we sometimes get faculty who didn't fall under those schools, who didn't fall under SPP, School of Management, and School of Communications, who said, how do I walk my students through this? Like, I don't know if I'm the best person, and they come forward to us. So we actually give them a quick little instruction on how to go through joinable sites and encourage their students to at least join it and walk through it. We do note in that one that it's not monitored because it's meant to kind of be a self-paced aspect for them. So at that point, it's joinable and it's not monitored. So it's great. I got one privately. Do you mind if I copy any of your ideas for this course? Thanks for sharing. I have to leave early, but I'll revisit the slides. Absolutely. Go right ahead. Part of the reason we did this presentation is, what kind of orientations are available? Do we get to the point where it's almost like information overload or pollution with what's going on and what's available out there? So this kind of allowed us to have a place where the student, once they enrolled, they were permanently in it, if it was a joinable, they removed themselves. And they just constantly had access to these resources. If they weren't sure how to access a forum or anything like that, how to post, how to communicate and add to it. Did you notice any change in faculty using tools? Or were there any, so this was from Katie, was there any pressure to become more fluent with Sakai now that the students actually know what the faculty could be doing? I'd say so. I think in a lot of classes, I've heard some students actually say that or faculty have come to me before saying, well, my student mentioned that I can do this, and so I'm here to ask you how, that kind of thing. So it's kind of difficult because that's kind of the conversations that we might not be privy to. We might get a call from a faculty member who said, I want to do this, but it really should have been preempted with, well, my student said I should do this, so now I want to, that kind of thing. So I'd say I wouldn't say we had an astronomical increase on faculty coming to our doors, but I'd say we definitely had a more fluid semester. Definitely, I'd say I felt a little more one-on-ones, more faculty who wanted to innovate and push forward. Now, whether we can take the credit for that, I don't know. It was really interesting because with the statistics and that call from institutional research is we didn't know we could take the credit for that until he called me up and said, hey, satisfaction rate was 100%. What did you do? And that's why I was so excited and giddy, is because I was like, wait a second, I didn't know you measured this. And then it was like, oh my God, you measured this. And then I was like, yay. So it's just kind of like crazy there. So it's a really good question to know what our faculty doing. We have a few other initiatives in place that serve to benefit our faculty, and I've said to faculty before, let me give you a peek at this. Let me give you a little inspiration. Let me know if it's overwhelming you. And I've taken the opportunity to say, like, this is something you could do. This is your option. This is your choice. So there's definitely a few different things there.
We have another question from Sean.
Cool. I was going down the list.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. So I just saw Terry said as well. I don't think I got. Oh, Sean's okay. So I see Sean next. So Terry, who's one of our faculty members here joining us today, she said that first semester students mentioned that she could use certain features. So she did dig deeper. So I don't think she actually specifically reached out to us. She's one of our dive in and go kind of faculty. She's a very strong swimmer. So she definitely has really done some awesome stuff with that. She actually presented earlier today as well. So definitely check out her recording. Sean said, what we did is enroll all the freshmen over the summer as opposed to having them joining. Did you think about that instead of joining? So that's where it kind of went back where I was saying, what was our buy-in before we got this data? What was our buy-in? What was our feedback? We didn't really have the buy-in from schools and the school initiative to say, hey, we should do this. That's the result of these statistics, is now seeing that satisfaction was 100% is the benefit, is the assumption we made in the benefit is obvious. It's clearly a benefit. The students clearly feel more comfortable. And this particular program, the School of Professional Programs, are primarily online students. So imagine that benefit for students who are even face-to-face or on the ground. So that's kind of what we're working towards. Whether or not it's a batch upload that whether we can auto feed it, we probably can't make it mandatory, but we can at least add everybody and enroll them as they become students. So we do have to look into our banner feed and how that's associated and moving to bring that coming in. Who uses the orientation? Do you have stats on how they use the introduction to ILearn site? So the extent of our statistics and how students are using it is how much they participate, which is really interesting because and that question was for Laura, from Laura. So we can look at who's taken the testing quizzes. Some people start it and look, but don't actually progress through it. We do have the standard ILearn statistics for access to the site and how many users haven't. There was a few times where we pulled up an orientation and all of a sudden, like, the forums was filled with like 300 posts. And I was just like, oh my goodness, thanks goodness I'm not the only one who's monitoring this. But then there's other times where the orientation has fell a little flat. And sometimes that's just because it's a smaller cohort of students. So really good question about that. How we actually know the statistics, and that's something that I could share at another time. It's just something that's actually pretty inconsistent on our end of how many students actually go through it. We're not quite allowed to say at this point that it's mandatory, but the way I paint it to students is, because I always get the private message or they post in the forums, do I really have to do this? And the canned response is, well, you should. This is to set you up to be successful as a student and expose you to this online environment that a majority of our faculty use across the board. It would be fantastic to have freshmen come in and take the online orientation. Totally agree. That's why we're hoping to offer it online and make it available to all incoming freshmen and transfers so that they can take it as they need, that self-paced approach, maybe like with a certificate of completion or something like that. Perhaps the IRB stats are so high in satisfaction just because you offer it, not because they use it, right? That was kind of the approach when we created it. Laura, thanks for that comment. Because we wanted to provide the resource and have them know where they could at least go to find that documentation and kind of have it all in one central location that was organized for them. So that was kind of actually the approach, was to have them see that that was there, so they might not have actually gone through it and finished it, but we can see that people are at least entering it and they know that it's there as a resource. I find that I think it's just the nature of students nowadays that they're less likely to pick up the phone and call the help desk, or they try to stumble around before they really hit that frustration level. They try to rely on something to be a little more intuitive first. Michael asked, do you utilize this or a similar site for faculty who are new to the university? Great question. We have something similar called E3 for our faculty. And it's very similar. It's a little different designed. And E3 stands for Enhance, Engage, Empower. And it is, let's see, I think I have a sample of one. So something a little similar. Where we've broken it down to in a few different modules. We used and abused our little Sakai friend here. As you can see, he makes a couple appearances. I had a little bit of fun in Photoshop. We divided it up between an introduction, which is kind of the equivalence of your module 0. Let's get familiar with Sakai in general. Getting started, a lot of what we talk about there is communication, quality content, student engagement, assessment, course management, and a wrap-up. So that's kind of neat. We talk about that. And I know the session right before this, the mentoring online session, actually talked about something very similar. We were watching that before I had to come in and get prepared. And theirs is actually a more robust version. And we got a lot of bright ideas from there on how we can mandate that for our faculty moving forward. So right now, we do offer this as one of our certificate tracks for our online faculty. And we have a few other initiatives on campus, a few other programs we're piloting to integrate this format across the board. Can you clarify the change you made in the orientation between 2016 and 2017? Yes. So the biggest change between 2016 and 2017 was the lessons tool. We jumped from 2.9 to, someone's calling me, to Sakai 11. And I'm just going to unplug my phone while I'm talking. So we jumped from 2.9 to Sakai 11. So the biggest difference there was Melete 2 lessons. So the general organization and setup wasn't that custom learning pathway. It wasn't. I don't know if you've experienced Melete, Becky and Amy, but that was really the driving innovation behind it. That was really, that update to lessons was really what was driving it. And then the second major motivation was we wanted this opportunity to offer, not just highlight the lessons tool for our faculty, but via our students. So the biggest change, I don't know if I have an old one in here. I'm under my instructor account, so I'd have to swap out. So if you bear with me, how am I in time? I'm running out.
You've got exactly 7 minutes.
Okay.
And you must leave a little bit of time for questions. I have a feeling this group would like some more answers.
Okay. Well, I mean, technically, I'm already doing questions. So.
Yes, you are. You just know they're going to come up with great ideas.
I do. Okay, so let's look back at, I might have hit it because I get a little particular about hiding my things. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, so this was our online student orientation in 16W in winter. So it was a lot of the same content, but using Melete. So we started up with technical questions, pop-up blocker, accessing downloaded files, So we really didn't abuse the new features of the system here. So this was our 2016 version, where we really just, everything was set up in Melete. So in reorganizing, it allowed us to take a critical analysis of the content we had, what we were asking them to do, their options and walkthrough for their hands-on, what they were experiencing, how many details we went into, and what those critical items were. So we invested a lot of time in building more robust documentation, as well as videos for them to walk through and see. So that was a big piece to that too. Okay, so someone mentioned the mentoring. Is there any other questions? So the nice thing is that moving forward, this was like that secret door. This was the forget about the muddy path, forget about your students hitting a brick wall. If we can make them more comfortable in the environment and make it more conducive for a nice little walkthrough, it's almost like giving a tour of your house. Faculty day one didn't always give that tour. Faculty day one didn't always say, here's what we're doing, here's what we're using. If you have friends come over your house, you show them around, you show them where the bathroom is, that kind of thing. So because of that, this allowed us to really give students that course class tour prior to being in that kind of situation. The idea was we pretty much used every single tool so that they could experience it before their faculty did or didn't use it. Some faculty don't use tests and quizzes. So, but anything else? Alrighty. Well, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I don't stifle my excitement much. I love to brainstorm, and I'm a light bulb thinker. So I like having the conversations with faculty who come in and say, well, I want to do this, but here's where I am, and just the ideas that come out from that kind of conversation moving forward. So the slides are available on the virtual conference site with those links to those videos. So I apologize for not having the sound for that. And I think that's it. I mean, if we do have time, I could actually swap in and pull up that video. But I don't know. Let me try.
We have 4 minutes. Please do.
Okay. Can you still hear me? I don't know where it is. I'm in general. If I test let me turn off my audio.
You can
leave computer audio. Okay, give me a second. I don't know. I couldn't find the checkbox.
I think you had to do it on your way in when you shared your screen.
I know, so I tried canceling and...
Oh, wow.
I don't know. No worries. Oh, here! Share computer sound. Okay, let's see if this works. And we can end with this video. So it's under our ILearn overview. We have our intro to ILearn. And I did want to share the course. Let me know if you can hear this.
Welcome to our ILearn course store. To access ILearn, navigate to ilearn.marist.edu.
Flip it.
Click Login at the top right of the page and enter your Marist credentials. Then, click Login. You can find all course sites for the current semester here at the top right. Did you know you can pin sites used regularly to the top navigation bar by favoriting them? To do so, click to highlight the star to the left of the course name. Let's click on a course site to take a look. For the purpose of this video, we'll be touring a sample course site. When you open a course site for the first time, you'll be directed to the course overview page. Here, you can access a summary of information such as announcements, as well as unread messages and forums. Please note that the tools used in this site may differ from your upcoming courses based on your instructor's preferences. At the beginning of the semester, be sure to review the course syllabus. This will serve as a reference point as your course progresses. Instructors use the announcements tool to broadcast information.
No worries. I don't see anywhere to control it, so I'm just going to pause it there. So everyone gets a good idea about, the general walkthrough and whatnot. That's one of my student employees that's not allowed to graduate. So he's pretty awesome. Thankfully, I don't think he's even in his senior year yet. So we're going to have to hold on to him as long as we can. But anyway, so that pretty much wraps us up. We just have one more comment before we wrap up. Katie said, I really love this method of showing the students what they might see and being okay with potentially drastic fractional use. That would solve so many problems we've had with offering student orientations broadly. We do say that caveat a lot. We do say, keep in mind your faculty might blah, 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 blah. Or for tests and quizzes, we had to say you can navigate to the tests and quizzes tool. If this is not available, you might have a direct link in lessons. So we've kind of had to build that into our scripts a little bit. So at this point, we pretty much sound like a broken record saying, well, it could be this or it could be this. It ended up being pretty good, and we're excited to see what that turns into for our students moving forward. By all means, we do offer our faculty access that. I'm actually working on a public anonymous site that would then allow me to share that out too. So it takes a little more time for me to do that. I haven't gotten on that yet. So if you're super interested, send me an email and remind me that you want access to the site if you're external, and I'll see if I can at least get our content up on a public anon site. We do have a public anon site that is our Touch the Technology for our students. So we wanted to offer this in that same format. So just nice, quick, easy access. And like I said, focusing on the students. We kind of forget about them. We kind of count on our faculty, or assume our faculty almost, where we'll be tackling that. So, well, that wraps us up. I think it's 4 o'clock.
It is. And we'd like to thank you, Corey. This was a great presentation.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Thanks for everyone for joining us.